Ban Vel'Koz away again. Really not wanting Huhi on either one of these champions. Zach banned out by Counter Logic Gaming. They took it last time. They're not willing to give it over to Dig this time.
It just gives you so much flexibility in draft when you have someone who can not only draw all these bans on these kind of oddball champions, but can also perform on all the meta champions, can really dominate on some of these meta champions.
Yeah, Huhi was the gold leader for the majority of that last game on Orianna. Definitely performing there, and the Lucian game as well. Very high DPS. Let's take a look though. Same bans for Dignitas as game number 1, taking the Rakan out last as well. So they won't let Aphromoo have his hands on that amount of playmaking.
I mean, it was dirty in the last game. You saw a couple of denials from Adrian, but Aphromoo still enjoying some wild success. Dignitas drafting the Jarvan themselves.
I'm going to be very excited to see what they want to change though, CLG, from the first game, because Tristana was the first pick for Dignitas in game number 1. They've taken it away here. Still not deciding to go for the Thresh. It feels like perhaps they are more comfortable actually kind of counter-picking that Thresh with the Morgana or the Tahm Kench or something along those lines.
Also, I like what CLG do. You know, they kind of wait with their support pick to see if they need to throw that counter of the Black Shield and kind of break up a crowd control chain, or what Team Dignitas are going to do first.
Counter Logic Gaming grabbing themselves the Tristana and that Gragas. OmarGod, a player who was known mostly for his Gragas and Olaf before he made it to LCS play, so a comfort pick for him.
This early Taliyah does open Dignitas up to kind of getting counterpicked in the last pick of this first round, though. Some of the assassins can be very effective against it. Things like Kassadin, which Huhi has been known to play, I think are exceptionally strong into this matchup. You also can just go back something like the Lucian, which he played in game number 1.
Definitely true. A lot of the coaches have been talking to have been saying you cannot blind pick Taliyah anymore after the nerfs. Definitely punishable, and no hesitation
there it is.
From Huhi.
Instant.
We saw Bjergsen do it, and it was brutal.
I think this is so smart. This is such a good 1v1 matchup. Does actually, set themselves up for a very strong split push and even team fight from Kassadin later on in the game. One thing that CLG has to be careful of, though, is not getting too greedy with your draft now. You want to draft some early game strength. I think if you go for something like a Camille or a Fiora or those sorts of picks as well, sometimes it can be a bridge too far because you have a scaling AD carry, you have a scaling mid laner, you need some early game stability.
Well, into the second part of bans, and top lane is the name of the game. Cho'Gath banned out by CLG, Renekton taken off the table by Team Dignitas. Both teams have already drafted their mid laners, potential junglers, and AD carries, so you will likely see similar bans coming out from both sides. Blitzcrank banned out by CLG, stopping some of that playmaking potential from Adrian.
And now we're putting a little bit even more emphasis on that Thresh pick. CLG kind of setting themselves up for a possible second round first pick here in the support role.
Camille banned out by Dig. What's it going to be, CLG? 2 more to go. They get both first pick and last pick here in this second picking phase. Thresh is grabbed.
Just as I said, whenever you see that Blitzcrank banned out, gives a little bit more emphasis there for Aphromoo to grab the Thresh, and now they get to save counter pick for top lane, for Darshan. They make Dignitas show them whether this Jarvan will be flexed or not.
Yeah, it feels like the draft has gone so well for CLG. They already got counterpick for mid lane. They already got counterpick set up for top lane here too. So both of their solo laners who have been so dominant are going to be set up for success. But the bot lane should be kind of prioritized towards Dignitas because they have had the secondary picks. They're going to be able to go with Braum, a tanky melee support who's not as susceptible to getting bursted down in this Thresh CC. And they were able to pick Xayah after Tristana was already selected.
Thinking about a couple of different junglers here. They decide to put Shrimp on the Elise yet again. It did not go very well for him in the first game.
Let's see if he can actually play off of some pushing lanes this time around and find success invading Omar, because when Team Dignitas have tried to invade CLG, it has backfired almost every single time in this series.
CLG's got 1 left to go. Top lane, Jax.
All right.
Locked in for Darshan. Gonna get to see some more dueling power.
Now, while this is an exceptional late game comp for CLG, guess what? You got to get there first, and you pick a scaling top laner, a scaling mid laner with very low CC, as well as a scaling AD carry. So if the early game goes poorly for CLG, it's very easy for Dignitas to group, to siege, to knock down turrets and pressure them before they can come online. So early game more important than ever, I think.
This is the type of race you like to see. Can Elise get some room for Taliyah to start roaming around and snowball this map before CLG are able to hit that point. Because, as you brought up before, one of the weaknesses always with these 1-3-1 comps is wave clear. And if you don't let them get enough items early on, there's no stack shift for Tristana, it becomes difficult for the team with the scaling split pushers to keep up.
Especially for Jax, who honestly does not win 1v1 against Jarvan earlier in the game. You actually do need quite a bit of time before you get to that stage where you can take him on. You're certainly going to get bullied in the early stages. It's more about surviving. And that's not going to create any pressure. And then you already have an invading, stronger early game jungler. You have pushing lanes really across the board. It could get tough.
And when you think about Jax, he wins fights because he dodges auto attacks. Frequent auto attackers, Jax can beat him up. But Jarvan just throws his E, throws his Q, hits you once with an auto attack, and that's his burst. That's his trading potential. So Ssumday going to be looking to be the bully early on here in this lane, and Dignitas is going to have to avoid early game tragedy. They cannot afford to be at such a disadvantage like they were in game number 2. See if anybody tries anything especially cheeky early on here, because Dignitas, it's do or die. CLG knows that they've got a little bit of breathing room, so maybe they'll want to do something a little bit out of the ordinary in order to catch Dig off guard and maybe find another free win from a level 1 advantage.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible to kind of roll the dice and go for an aggressive level 1 play. If you can make it work, as you said, that may be the series, and if you can't, well, you still have two more tries.
Also, never mind. We're going to have
right, there we go. They're going right into the fight. Shrimp's going to be ignited, trying to get himself away. First blood already to the Jax. Darshan getting himself that money.
Oh, that is probably the best person to get it as well. Darshan is going to start the game with another item.
I mean, it calls back to the last game where it was a Camille, a very similar situation. Jax also, this time around, will have enough time to go back to base and actually purchase with that power.
Just what are they doing? They see that Stixxay is already there. He was in vision. Darshan comes down, preps the counter-strike, flashes in, and gets that killing blow over onto the Jax. And Dignitas, this has to be heartbreaking for them. You get that sinking feeling knowing that you're down 2 games and you just gifted a Jax first blood.
This really tests the mental strength of this team to see if they can come back. With the way that the series is going right now, to have your game 3 start out this way is exactly the opposite of what they're looking for, but they have to keep their focus. Keep focus on that early game and on that pressure. They still are going to need to keep the tempo.
They certainly are, but the early game is going to be somewhat stifled by the fact that Shrimp doesn't have his flash. He's down a playmaking ability. One of the best ways for him to actually get in there to be aggressive. So I really do think even more now than ever, the focus has to be on top lane. Darshan spent his flash, get up there, try to punish him, and take him down early, and you give some hope back to your team.
I mean, we were talking about how Ssumday needed to be the bully here, about how Ssumday was going to have Darshan contained early. But when Darshan gets an extra longsword to lane with, when he has an EXP advantage, it's just not in the cards anymore.
All right, well, Shrimp is ready and on duty. He's taking the Scuttle Crab first here, so maybe not going to go for the gank on the Jax. Instead, going to try and check the jungler. He has been seen coming into this side of the jungle, though. And remember, he doesn't have flash, so this could be punished once again.
Oh, boy. Dignitas.
They don't have wave pressure in the mid lane. So remember, you always have to caution. Working with your laners is the biggest part of jungling skirmishes. And Huhi here on the Kassadin, not yet able to get to level 6, be a effective partner there in the skirmishes for OmarGod.
Shrimp is taking a lot of damage from these chickens. He lost about half his health bar there to being the one aggroed by the camp. OmarGod still only level 2. Doesn't have all his resources available here. Shrimp wanting to steal away that big one, but OmarGod with a flop of his belly will steal it away.
And hit his level 3, very important for him. Still gonna be tracked a little bit. Now remember, when Bjergsen did this against Keane and did the Kassadin counter pick into the Taliyah, he also went for another early Dark Seal, using his teleport pretty early on to gain some more of that lane presence in this matchup. So far, though, we'll see what Keane has learned since their match versus TSM. Right now, he's pushing in, trying to get some of that wave control. Darshan, though.
Baby, that damage from Darshan.
Yeah, the counter-striking all those minions, dealing so much extra damage there. Darshan able to set up very well. Shrimp coming around, remember, has no flash.
Huhi walking away from the cocoon, recognizing he didn't need to spin the flash, staying safe from that one. Aphromoo also rotating around here in case he's needed.
And another thing we haven't really had a chance to talk about because of all the action is Darshan looking for Ssumday again.
Darshan doesn't stop.
No, I mean, he's playing very aggressive. When you start with an extra longsword, you can actually afford to do this pretty well. But the fact that there's an Infernal Dragon as that first dragon, one that is going to be so heavily contested, especially in compositions like this that are chock full of damage, people who want to build up AD and AP, it's going to be even more important, and that's why the bot lane success is going to be even more important for CLG, and they have been having such a better time of it in this series today than they have in the rest of playoffs.
And the reason why Shrimp is probably going to hover on this top side, you know, CLG's bottom lane with the Thresh Tristana is very difficult to gank. A lot of escape mechanisms there. See if they get the stop on the back. Not quite.
Shrimp just a little bit early on that cocoon fire.
It's still kind of scary though, because Darshan wants to TP back for this wave, but if you TP back into a dive, that is horrible for you, so he's actually holding on to it.
That's why they have OmarGod coming down the lane here. A little bit of a bait. They were going to see if Team Dignitas would go for that risky dive, and Omar was trailing. Not going to be the case though, and Shrimp still got to counter jungle a little bit inside CLG red.
Stixxay and Aphro continuing to push up on the bottom side there. Ssumday working his way back to top side away from OmarGod. Tossing out the barrel, just making sure his top laner is safe, not wanting to allow that dive setup coming out from Shrimp and Ssumday. Tracker's Knife completed on both those junglers, so extra warding, extra vision to track each other is going to be available for both sides.
As we focus on the mid lane here, too, the Kassadin goal is to get to the level 6 within your first teleport timer. So now that he's used his first teleport, just has to hold out a little bit longer in this lane, feeling much more safe after you press that level 6. Plus holding onto his flash, so shouldn't be much of a worry for Huhi.
Yeah, we have to see the OmarGod behind Ssumday has not been spotted out. We'll see if he can actually get up there.
Darshan with the stun, Omar coming in with the body slam, the barrel comes down, more damage going through. Gets himself away with a nicely placed flag.
Even though he holds on to his flash there, though, the teleport is already down, so he's going to have to walk back to this lane, and Darshan's going to hard push and see how many minions he can deny into the turret. So even though that gank does not get a summoner or a kill, it is going to go a long ways as far as furthering Darshan's lane pressure.
Yeah, it's actually a big deal because there's no cannon minion up on the top side in that wave. So that's usually where you want to base because it absorbs so many of those turret shots, and these melee minions are going to go down pretty quickly. So he's going to miss, 3 or 4 experience on a couple as well. It's pretty significant when you're already behind.
He will make it back up there to farm up most of those ranged minions. Hopefully get level 6 very soon. Huhi jumping in there onto Keane. Nice seismic shove into the cocoon. Where's the follow-up? A little bit more damage would be needed. OmarGod now going to be bursted down very, very low. Pulled to safety by Aphromoo. The counterattack from Huhi.
Aphromoo goes in! He gets him!
Goes in! The ignite!
Just incredible.
The roam here from the CLG captain comes up to save Omar while going for the kill with the flash ignite onto Shrimp, completely turning the tides of the 2 versus 2.
What a playmaker this guy. CLG support just showing up game after game after game today, keeping his guys alive, making sure they get that kill.
I mean, it's honestly just incredible from Aphromoo. Not only does he get there to save OmarGod, he's able to turn around the play, get a kill, and this is looking like a bad play for CLG as Shrimp comes in, nails the cocoon, and OmarGod did a good job healing, but still, they're kind of out of damage, and it looks like it's going to go Dignitas' way.
Aphromoo turns the entire story here. Tells Huhi to go back in for the slow. The slow lands, allowing him to get into range for the flash flay ignite onto Shrimp. And another kill over to CLG. Also, simultaneously taking away any of their jungler presence. Shrimp was in base, so now CLG get to set up again.
Ssumday maybe the target of a dive here. Darshan tanking a bit too much damage from that turret, though. Trying to get himself away now. Ssumday does have the ulti. He may just want to try to go in here and dunk him. Denied by the body slam.
Yeah, and he gets Darshan's flash out. And that was actually very risky from Darshan. Maybe thought that OmarGod was going to get there a little bit earlier because Ssumday could have actually just dropped the ult as the Counter-Strike was going to trigger, and Darshan would have just probably died.
Yeah, not really a way out of that one. Ssumday does not find him, thankfully for CLG. They will maintain their 2-0 kill lead for now. 1,000 gold up for this team, and honestly, both games, and now this third one so far, have just played out so similarly. But CLG seems to have the early game down pat. Stixxay now potentially going to be punished here, but a nice hook backwards onto Altec. The Dignitas bottom lane just not finding the success they need to find against these two today.
Yeah, Stixxay and Aphromoo definitely having a good series for themselves. And with the way this entire series is going, you know, the Team Dignitas mentality is going to have to start to change. Even though they're so far behind, they still have to create. You know, Shrimp on this Elise is still going to have to find that confidence to look for openings in this game because there's not a lot of time for them to wait.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point, especially because they're actually on a clock against this Kassadin and Jax, right? This is not just a 1K gold lead against an even composition. This is a composition that is supposed to be disadvantageous in the early games and massively advantageous in the late games. So Dignitas needs to push the pace, needs to make things happen. They can't just let Jax and Kassadin scale.
Looks like we might have some jungler versus jungler action here. OmarGod losing about half his HP as he tries to walk into Shrimp's territory, who is ready and waiting on him. And you know, watching this game and watching CLG's performance be so different from what we saw in the first couple rounds of playoffs from them, CLG is a team that is no stranger to the upper levels of competition in the NA LCS. This is one of the old guard, one of the 3 different orgs that has actually won a North American LCS split before. These guys know how to play these types of games, and they're well suited.
Here we go, though. Team Dignitas down 1,000 gold, still trying to start up that Infernal Drake, still trying to create on the map. And CLG not taking that bait, so an Infernal Drake, definitely a strong prize here for Team Dignitas to try and secure themselves a little bit more power.
Dig playing through those neutral objectives. This is how they were able to accomplish a lot in the regular split.
And it looks like it's going to be another Infernal coming up, which is really going to kind of put the onus on CLG to contest that. You don't want to give that double Infernal advantage over to Dignitas because scaling advantages or not, that can really change the math on things and give Dig an edge.
So CLG have done an early lane swap here, sending their bottom lane up to the top side. They want to try and take advantage of that window where Team Dignitas used a lot of their presence to take a Drake, now to power down for a first turret bonus gold.
And it looks like there's no way for Dignitas to stop them here. Tristana very adept in pushing down these turrets. There's nothing that Ssumday could possibly do. Instead, just has to retreat. The lane swap's going to come in from Dignitas.
And even though it kind of looks like those were unrelated events there, this is in trade due to the time investment that Team Dignitas had all their members on the Drake, and CLG taking that time for the recalls and the early swap up to the top side. So kind of in essence there, a little bit of a trade first turret for that Infernal. And CLG also with that trade avoiding the early conflict and avoiding those possibilities of Team Dignitas getting some extra gold.
CLG's composition, you mentioned it, Azael. This is such a scary prospect with Kassadin having the Rod of Ages, having Stixxay's Tristana be at the point where he's dead even in farm with the enemy Xayah, and Darshan 85 to 72 CS in the top lane. This Jax just having a field day.
Yeah, plus he has turret gold and the first blood gold in his pocket, so he's going to be getting to a very fast Triforce, and when you do complete that Triforce, that's when you really start to turn online, but Ssumday going to be in some trouble.
He just cannot even start to stand his ground in this 1 versus 1.
He is trying, when you see him escape like this, look for the angle to get behind the Jax so he can use the flag and drag not only to gain distance and escape, but also get the knockup. Darshan does know this, so he's stepping to the side, and he still does gain the distance, but not going to be quite able to hit. Adrian just going to chase off Stixxay here, be able to get to cover.
Stixxay hiding there underneath the turret, keeping himself safe. 0, 2, and 0 on Shrimp's Elise. I mentioned when this was locked in that game number 1, this wasn't very successful for Team Dignitas, and here in game number 3, they're singing the same song.
One of the things that has been so impressive about Stixxay performing well, actually farming well, and some of the stats we've seen in this series is, so he's actually going to be jumped on, will be okay, but is the fact that Aphro has been roaming away from him so much of the time, and Stixxay is left in these 1v2 scenarios, and not only is he not getting punished, he's not even really falling behind in the farm.
OmarGod moving towards his own red buff. Aphromoo helping him defend it as well, but it's a 3-man invade here from Team Dignitas to steal this one away. They've got a ward down there too. Shrimp smites that one out. Aphromoo grabbing the hook only on to Adrian. But Braum not really a decent target for that.
Team Dignitas have to be a little bit careful because even though CLG let them steal the red, they are collapsing now.
Multiple chain CCs there onto OmarGod. Pulled to safety by the Dark Passage. CLG still seeing if they're able to find anything there. They don't go for Adrian, instead trying to find a more valuable target, but the hook does not connect.
Looking for a little prediction there on a side dodge. Doesn't get it though, and everybody from Team Dignitas get the red buff and they get out. Small victory there, but definitely one to count for. CLG's vision, mostly defensive right now as well.
And they would really like to knock down some of these outer turrets to kind of unlock that vision control in their opponent's jungle. If you can knock down this outer for Darshan, if you can get vision control in the red side jungle of Dignitas, that allows the Jax so much more freedom to actually jump onto Ssumday without the defense of that turret and really to start getting big split push advantages, because whether or not you can win the 1v1, you can't always go for the 1v1 without the vision to know that it's safe.
One of the biggest problems, too, for a bruiser, tanky-style champion to fight up against Jax, he does hybrid damage. OmarGod now caught out, brought down, but the safety of the Dark Passage comes through yet again.
The courage of the Colossus coming in clutch. So many members around him, the shield just barely keeping them alive.
And that's why we keep emphasizing the support and jungle duo roams. Aphromoo there on the Thresh is able to follow through with the exit plan, because that looked like a very good Team Dignitas pick. And Team Dignitas need that gold right now to really fuel this mid game, because it's getting to be very scary. You keep talking about the scaling. It's definitely starting to mount here for CLG.
And I mean, one of the critical parts of this is that OmarGod went for the Cinderhole. He went for the tanky option. He is not going for a Runic Echo. He knows that there's tons of damage in this team. He just has to be a soak. He has to be surviving in the front line. And, you know, were this a Runic Echo's Gragas, he certainly would have got bursted.
Yeah, 100%. No way to get out of that one without the tank ability, but this guy knows he's the only meatball on his team.
The life of the solo meatball.
Yup. Usually you got at least 2 meatballs, but when you're the only one, you better be the meatiest of all, and that is OmarGod's job this game. We'll have to see if he can continue tanking up like that, and if Aphro can keep protecting him, because he's been doing a great job of it so far this series. CLG with a 2K gold lead. Infernal Drake 30 seconds away.
And Team Dignitas facing the spawn of this Infernal Drake and facing this gold deficit that they're in. Their big issues is, again, finding areas of Fog of War to look for those picks. Even though there was an escape on the last pick they pulled off, that's still the correct play for them to look for.
Oh my goodness! Keeping them safe, grabbing the damage out there onto Adrian, but now CLG still looking to make the moves. Darshan trying to get himself back, but a nice Cataclysm finds its way onto 2. It's 1 for 1 so far. Aphromoo going to be tanking the damage there in the front line. Ssumday occupied with him. OmarGod having to retreat. Huhi's still full HP. Omar nearly taken down, having to flash out. Dignitas looking for more. Huhi jumping right back into all 4 members of Dignitas. Ssumday dragging himself forward, but not quite able to find anyone just yet. Keane going to be keeping them at bay with a threaded volley, and both sides walk out.
Team Dignitas have to be careful with their health bars, because the Infernal Drake is still on the field. They don't want to get so low that CLG would slip in and go for that afterwards, because they already have Scuttle Crab and Vision Control. Here comes the teleport. They don't want to let him have it.
Yeah, Darshan is actually holding on to his teleport. He's running back to the top side. So will CLG just make the call to give this up? And for now, they are backing off, but Huhi does have his teleport as well.
Exactly. They could come in with a double teleport if Team Dignitas start taking up the Infernal Drake first. They're on it.
Dignitas wants this objective. TP starting to be channeled. Weaver's Wall going to be keeping CLG away. Dignitas burns it down. They manage to get away with it for now, and CLG will have no counter opportunity.
Even though the double teleport comes in, the rest of the team can't get over the wall. Very nice there from Keane, and Team Dignitas are able to get yet another Infernal Drake. These are what's keeping them in the game.
I mean, that double Infernal really does make a massive difference as you get to the later stages of the game. It erases a lot of the edges that these champions have from CLG.
Adrian taking a little bit of a bop in there from Huhi off to the side. Huhi's Rod of Ages, 7 out of 10 stacks completed on that one. Also closing in on the Lich Bane. We're getting to the part of this game where Kassadin can start really hitting hard.
Yeah, and the fact that Jax now has his Triforce completed before Jarvan even has a Black Cleaver is a really bad feeling for Ssumday. He wants nothing to do with Darshan in this 1v1.
Ssumday will need to find more opportunities in team fights to really make himself as useful as Darshan is. Rift Herald now being attempted by CLG. The duo of jungle and top lane shouldn't have too much of a difficulty securing Shelly here.
Luckily for Team Dignitas, they still have some openings, some hope to go for. Before CLG get wards on both sides of the jungle to really allow those double teleport 1-3-1 split pushers full effectiveness, Team Dignitas can still make these looks to try and find picks. They're looking for that Fog of War. You know, Taliyah has mobility, so if Elise is there, able to get someone with Cocoon, that's what they're trying to kind of open up an area in this game to come back from. But right now, CLG is still feeling very confident.
In 1 minute from now, a little bit under, Baron will be live for the first time this game. And I mentioned it in game number 1, and I want to go back to it because the stats are so convincing for Dignitas when they get Barons. When this team can control that objective, they have an absurd win rate, something over 80%, but they've been denied it both games so far. CLG has done a wonderful job maintaining control over the area, and if they can keep that up in game number 3, it's been their ticket to victory.
It'll be very interesting to see how OmarGod decides to use this Rift Herald. If he's going to try to go to a side lane, crack open some of those turrets, because Darshan looking for the flank, but something is coming down here as well.
Aphromoo with a very nice pull there onto Altec, but instead it's going to be him who's taken down. Shrimp goes up into the air to drop the aggro. Stixxay forced to rocket jump away. Ssumday coming in from the side, wanting to find the dunk onto a value target. Instead, CLG walks out. Dignitas manages to find their pick. Baron goes live. What is the choice for Dig here? They need to get something off the back of this.
They would hope to bait in CLG to try and check around Baron. Darshan's going to be one caught a little bit. Just chased out of their own jungle, though. Team Dignitas can set up the vision. A little bit of deep vision does go a long ways.
Tiny little spiders skittering their way into the bushes. Darshan, I don't know if he saw those there or not, but I don't think it matters too much. The push coming in on the top side means that Dignitas wants to look towards this tier 1 turret, utilizing the jungle and top laner together. But CLG reinforcements are making their way in. Rocket jump away in the mid lane from Stixxay. Adrian and Altec pushing that lane up as well. Dignitas just taking priority in multiple lanes at once, trying to get themselves as much map control as possible.
Because it's Dignitas that needs to push the base. They're the ones that really are trying to knock down turrets and get something done. And nice hook comes in.
Wall comes out. Aphromoo now going to be jumped on. The dunk comes through. The damage coming out as well. There's your blade caller taking him out.
And Aphromoo a little bit close there. Even though he's able to create a play, CLG are looking for 1-3-1 pressure, and the 3-man squad cannot get baited into a conflict there. So Team Dignitas very happy with taking down the turret and getting an extra kill, even though it looks like Huhi will be able to answer on bottom side.
And this is buying time on the top side as well. So, you know, they do get the play, they do get a kill, but it's time for the solo laners. Jack's going to be up to this turret, going to be able to get some damage down before Ssumday actually gets up here.
And Jax, as a Trinity Force user, especially one with a very low cooldown on his W, is incredibly effective at pushing these turrets. Also mid lane, Rift Herald summoned with Stixxay.
Yeah, this is actually so smart because CLG established pressure on both sides. They then move the Rift Herald to mid, so they have 3-lane pressure here. They will knock down that mid outer turret.
And the mid turret is so critical in what we talked about earlier, setting up that vision in those parts of the jungle. While CLG really want to split the map in 1-3-1, they can do so effectively if they're able to get into the jungle and get those deep rewards down. Take another look here at the Taliyah wall, and then subsequent Aphromoo going for a hook. The problem with the hook, it causes your champion model to stay in the same place, effectively locking yourself in there for a very nice Taliyah shove from Keane, seismic shove, able to get Aphromoo, and once that lands, it's pretty much toast.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no one to follow up, right? If the 5-man squad is there, the hook is great, but it's just 2 men under the turret. They have to retreat, and Aphromoo does go down pretty easily, but bot lane turret may actually die to the minions. Looks like it will.
Darshan wants to get close enough to get that local gold, but I don't think he quite caught near enough.
No, Ssumday also trolling his AD carry a little bit, taking away the red buff on accident instead of leashing it. So not having that on Altec for the next fight. We'll have to see if that makes a big difference or not. As Darshan shows up, Ssumday gets himself away.
Yep, red buff slow, auto attack, you know, can just pop off the shield. Darshan there was looking for the cooldowns to be used to clear the wave, then immediately jump, but doesn't matter. Disengage there from Ssumday.
Mountain Drake live in 20 seconds. Another pretty valuable Drake. It's not Infernal number 3, but it's the extra objective control that either one of these teams could need in order to push themselves further into this mid game.
Yeah, and I mean, getting that Mountain actually to knock down turrets can be very effective when you have the Tristana, when you have, you know, this Lichbane and these Triforce on the Jax and the Kassadin. Also, if these guys ever get free time on turrets, any of the 3 members from CLG, they will knock them down very quickly. And for Dignitas, it's about being able to force around objectives. It's about being able to force rushing things like the Baron.
Now we're seeing the effects of the successful 1-3-1. Huhi's double wave up on the top side has to be answered there by Altec and Adrian, which allows the rest of CLG to take up that Mountain Drake.
CLG getting that for themselves. It's their first Drake of this game. up against the two Infernals of Dignitas, as now Dig pushes out that top side. Still haven't taken down the tier 1 up there just yet.
They have a bit of vision around Baron, as well as 3 extra members on the top side to force off Huhi. CLG have already sent Darshan to continue the bottom side split push and try and set that up for their answer.
Turret goes down. Altec with the last auto attack onto that one. Huhi and Aphromoo not able to hold the line here. CLG not really with anyone in position to stop these guys just yet, but Omar coming in through the jungle, wanting to pick someone off if he can get the angle. Nice cocoon from Shrimp, gonna be stopping him from going any further. Disengage from Adrian as well with the Winter's Bite. CLG can't collapse in time.
Well, this is actually a really interesting buy here from Darshan, going straight for the Frozen Mallet second. You would have expected Titanic Hydra. That is much more of the team fighting kind of strategy. Even for split pushing, allows you to push waves so quickly and get your third hit passive. But what this is going to do is, if he's in a long lane against Ssumday, the slows from the Frozen Mallet means it's exceptionally hard to actually escape in that long lane. So this is very much for that 1v1 style build, and Ssumday is going to have to give the respect over to Darshan and not even approach when he comes to that lane.
Really doing a good job of zoning away the Dignitas top laner, making sure that he maintains absolute control. The 1-3-1, you said it, that's the name of the game for CLG, and making sure that there's no way that one of those can be contested at all is a way to make sure that that strategy stays effective. Game's still 3 kills to 3 kills, less than 1,000 gold separating the two teams. 4th Drake will be the 3rd and final Infernal as well. This side really having access to Baron just yet. Ssumday doing a good job fighting up against Darshan here.
Here comes the Taliyah wall as well, but Huhi's failing!
Cataclysm comes in, it's gonna be a 2v2. Keane fighting himself on the wrong side of the turret, trying to get himself away. The threaded volley comes out, keeping him slowed down, but Huhi will be able to jump in just a moment, and Darshan barely walks away.
Not even close for Darshan.
It was a little bit close. It was a little bit close. Here goes the rest of the squad, though. OmarGod's going to get his ultimate repelled. Huhi actually finds another kill. It looks like Ssumday wanted to go answer and try to chase down Darshan.
That means CLG can just push up mid lane, keep the pressure here, so the 3-man squad has to answer, and Darshan is going to have free time on this bottom tier 2 turret. So the split push even more successful now. They're TPing back in, threatening a
Oh, the TP from Huhi. Aphromoo grabbing the pull there onto Adrian. CLG not really concerned about the champion kills just yet, going for the turrets instead. Tier 2 falls. 5 turrets now for CLG, and they're knocking on the inhibitor door. 10 seconds left on Ssumday. CLG does not want to stop without claiming this turret. It's still a 5 versus 3. The damage from the Tristana is enough. Do they go for the inhib?
Ssumday will have his teleport when he revives here for Team Dignitas if they want to try and pull some kind of chase. But Darshan's already basing in preparation for this. CLG are preparing for a possible counter teleport.
And CLG should just back off. They have so much gold to spend. They have such a strong scaling composition. There's no reason to risk it on a play like this, but they're going to decide to just try to push for the inhibitor. And now, having to call that off, that's their teleport down, which means Darshan may actually have to group. So that is actually very big, because Ssumday can force him to come to the team.
I would say that grouping isn't the worst thing for Darshan at this moment anyways. The Frozen Mallet, while it does give you the slow for the 1v1, it gives way more health than the Titanic as well for team fighting and allows you a little bit of survivability. So it's not the worst thing in the world, even though it wouldn't be the ideal strategy. Here, though, something we've seen this team do so often, have their second split pusher trail the first one, and it actually works out the timing here just so Keane feels like he gets completely baited in, ends up with 2 split pushers in his face, and almost takes down Darshan. Looks like 2-digit health right there for him. Ssumday, this is his attempt at answering the kill. But just get the...
That has got to be so frustrating. Both of them surviving with almost no health there. But that is the goalie. That is the difference. And now CLG looking for another engage.
CLG going into the Dignitas jungle. Instead, it's going to be Aphromoo who finds himself picked off. They've got Ssumday there on the front line, having to flash away after dropping the Cataclysm. CLG going to be contained for now. Darshan here into the back line. Counter-striking, stunning, and zoning. Dignitas hobbling away, health bars blinking.
Well, they jump out there without getting the execution, so nobody indeed goes down. Baron is still up, and the health bar chunks are very important. Plus, you're going to have to watch no flashes left on the back line there for Team Dignitas.
Yeah, it's going to be very scary the next fight, as Huhi and Darshan are a very powerful diving duo if they want to group up for that. And You know, as you said, you do have a lot of survivability from the Frozen Mallet. One of the things to me that makes it so much weaker for the team fighting is that Titanic Hydra allows you to actually proc your third hit passive very quickly with that extra hit, and can be really strong for actually diving in and taking it.
Adrian trying to zone away Stixxay here, but instead just gets hit by about 10 auto attacks at once. As Dignitas moves in, clears away vision from the Baron pit. CLG still has that Rift Scuttler vision there in the river, though. Everybody thinking about Baron now. 29 minutes into the game means that people have enough items, have enough strength to really make something happen with that. Ssumday, nice sidestep away from the death sentence there, gets himself back to safety. Stixxay continuing to put auto attack after auto attack into him, though. Blade Caller going to find the route there onto Stixxay. CLG continuing to push down the mid lane. Inhibitor under pressure. CLG backing away, realizing they've still got a few steps to go to bring everyone else up here. They don't want to overextend.
They would love to be able to take down the inhibitor before going to one of the neutral objectives, but Team Dignitas with a very quick collapse on defense there.
And this is a third Infernal that has just spawned, so if Dignitas could grab that, that would be massive for them. And CLG really want to take it away to close that gap, but they may have found a pit.
Here we go. Adrian going to be the one who's jumped on Glacial Vision to disengage things. Darshan taken low, but Counter-Strike still able to keep him alive. The Blade Storm comes out. Featherstorm dropped in the middle of the fight as now Huhi into the back line, finding his way onto Keane. Altec drops. Stixxay's grabbing the kill. Huhi down onto Keane, who takes down Stixxay. As Aphromoo grabs Keane, it's 3 for 1.
Huhi actually got the mana back off of the Elise there to get a reset to get over to Keane and take him down. That was so well played for CLG.
And that's going to be an Infernal Drake as their reward. Now it's just Ssumday out on the field trying to push a couple minions for Team Dignitas, but the vision is creeping in, the neutral objectives are starting to flow, and the 1-3-1 really dangerous. Here goes another look at the pick. Aphromoo from Fog of War, able to land the hook onto Braum.
Yeah, and then Huhi coming in from the side is going to be diving deep, and he actually starts to run out of mana trying to go for Keane, but tracked the Netherblade. He gets the W, reset onto Shrimp to get his mana back, and then uses this mana to actually dive forward onto Keane and finish him off. So smart.
He does all that while buying the rest of the team time to kill Altec during the duration of his dive, which means that CLG get to press through the forest and find the rest of the kills.
And you brought up last game, Kobe, how this game has implications for the Gauntlet. These two teams will most likely face off against each other in that gauntlet at some point. And if CLG can make this 3-0 clean sweep of Dignitas, what a statement that'll make.
And they certainly are getting very close to that point. I mean, they're at this stage where Kassadin, you know, we talk about Kassadin as that 1-3-1 split push threat. And yes, it is a very powerful in the 1-3-1. But now that you have all this CDR in the late game and the Zonias, you can join up for the team fighting. Huhi is going to be a monster wherever he goes.
Dignitas still seems to not have an answer for that monster. Next dragon is going to be Elder. No more elementals to spawn this game. Baron also still on the table.
The goal with 1-3-1s right now is to set up the minion waves in place in preparation for an overextension by Team Dignitas. Azael mentioned a couple of ways that the split pushers can actually even dive into the back line of Team Dignitas and actually collapse for a team fight. Right now, though, they can just wait. You gain gold by having the extra split pusher. The tower is under attack from Huhi. Ssumday is under attack from Darshan. And CLG closing in on all areas.
Yeah, and they can retreat back towards the Baron. It looks like they may start up a two-man Baron over here as Tristana and Gragas are heading right for that Baron pit. I think CLG may start this, and they have already started it. Darshan's still pressuring on the bot side, and Hui's still pressuring on the top.
Dignitas recognizing something smells a little bit funny here, moving Shrimp and Keane up towards that area to shut them down, stop that Baron attempt from coming out, but at the same time, they now yield control of their top lane, and that inhibitor turret is just being smashed on by Huhi.
It's a pretty difficult three-man squad to engage on. Gragas has disengaged. There's a Lantern from Thresh always, and Tristana even has self-peel. It's very difficult right now. Dignitas, you can see them running from lane to lane to try and catch someone. But
now they've caught Altec out. The Featherstorm's going to be used, the Blade Caller as well, but it is not enough. Stixxay grabbing the kill onto him. Keane coming in from the side. Weaver's Wall to keep him zoned away. Ssumday finding the damage down onto Stixxay. Aphromoo keeping himself alive for now. Adrian going to be brought down.
Darshan!
And Darshan, the double kill coming out for Ssumday as Huhi's taken low, but not out just yet. Can the top laner be the hero? The triple for Ssumday. Darshan looking to stun him up, and the damage comes through. The Guardian Angel will proc. Huhi, very limited mana here. A nice Sonya's Hourglass, and Ssumday will find 4.
will find a kill there, but Darshan gonna be able to push down mid. He can even go for the inhibitor because there's still some time on these respawns.
There's only 7 seconds left on Altec and 9 on Adrian, though, so they might want to calm it down a little bit. Darshan crowned King of the Hill, though, after everybody else goes down. Huhi was waiting for that EQ upon revival with his Zhonyas, but it didn't matter. Still gets one shot. All right, let's take a look at how it all started off.
Yeah, and the seismic shove there onto Stixxay on his actual jump got so much damage down on him that Ssumday was able to fly in and finish off that kill.
All right, Darshan does take down Adrian, but that was not the ideal target here. Then Huhi and him are left to dive onto Keane. They barely get out of this one, and Ssumday with full life finishes off Omar for the triple. Then it's so scary for Huhi to even get into range here. He doesn't want to get bopped. One auto as well as a Q would finish him off. He's waiting for the combo. Huhi's able to get off the Zhonyas. We know what happened after that, though. Let's get back to live, Captain.
We're live into the game, boys. 7K up still for CLG, but DIG showed they can still do something in these fights.
And something worth noting, Ssumday actually has the components of either a Ghost Blade or a Dusk Blade on Jarvan.
It's hero time.
He's going full DPS, trying to one-shot someone with this build. This is not your standard tank Jarvan. Grab up that Knight's Vow, grab up some of these supportive items. He's going all in. We haven't seen this since Trey was really back on Apex.
It's carry time for Ssumday in the top lane. Time to flex those muscles and keep this series alive for Team Dignitas. Stixxay jumping away after pouring some damage into Adrian there. Still no Baron taken by either side. Remember, the Elemental Drakes are all tied up, so either team will get value out of that Elder. But Ssumday now building those items like you were talking about. He's flagged himself as, hey, I'm not tanky. So he's got to respect the possibility that if he goes in even a split second too early, CLG may just burst him down. As now, the damage coming through onto Adrian once more. Dignitas zoning them away. Threaded volleys, unraveled earth, going to be showing up as those zoning mechanisms.
These are not full commitments from CLG. This is just a 3-man squad trying to harrier and harass from the sides here, Team Dignitas, and slow down their push mid lane to buy time for the split pushers. Huhi is almost at the inhibitor turret, and Darshan has 1 wave left to push.
And with that GA not up, he actually does purchase the Dusk Blade, so he is going for this one-shot type build, but it can be a one-way trip very easily if CLG all turn on you and you don't have the GA to come back up. Like, that is your one punch. CLG on the Baron, though. So many men on the bot side even looking to try to push Darshan out.
Dig can't stop this. Absolutely not. CLG will secure it, no contest. But you said, Azael, one-shot Jarvan either one-shots you or he dies in one shot, and now Ssumday is learning that the hard way. Darshan with the beatdown as Altec and Adrian will look to shut him down in retaliation. Keane making his way down there as well. The shutdown comes through 1 for 1.
This is with a Baron buff for CLG, though. They will avenge Darshan's death and take down an inhibitor turret.
They might just get the inhibitors as well. Both of them down to half HP. Getting 2 of these here is huge, and they'll do it. Now they have to get themselves out. Shouldn't be too big of a challenge. Stixxay grabbed the mid one there as Huhi grabs the top. Dignitas now finds themselves seriously.
They're staying around looking for a pick here.
Coming over for Adrian. Pops up the Unbreakable, trying to keep himself alive. Ulti coming out from the Xayah. Altec taken down to half HP. Seismic shove, not quite finding the mark onto Huhi. 2 dead on the side of Dignitas. Ssumday not alive for another 15 seconds. This could be the series. CLG pushing onto the Nexus turrets, demanding a response.
Yeah, Huhi actually forced the heal and ultimate from Altec, so there's not much to keep him alive in this fight. CLG could look for a pick on Altec here. We'll see if they go.
Shrimp is very, very low. Altec trying to keep himself alive. More damage coming out. CLG zoning them away. Nexus turret number 2 about to fall. Ssumday back alive on the front line. Huhi able to find the damage. Altec is down. Shrimp's almost going to be taken out as well. Huhi falls. Ssumday's going to be chased down. And Dignitas has found themselves in an unrecoverable position. CLG, 3 games in, takes 3rd place.
What an incredible series from CLG, showing complete and utter dominance over Dignitas here. Going into that Worlds Gauntlet with so much confidence now, they have to be feeling amazing.
That was some Zion Spartan play there at the end from Darshan. Gets the 1v1 kill, allows the team to get Baron and inhibitors from it.
What a well-executed comp from CLG. The scaling, we talked about the dangers of it in Champion Select. How if you have these lanes that may fall behind, it could end in disaster. Instead, the Jax gets first blood, the 1-3-1 is executed well, and they deliver time and again.
You've got to talk, though, about these early games, these level ones, how badly it went for Dignitas. Every single game, they were just destroyed at level 1. CLG's preparation, CLG's collapses, their planning, and their execution around these early games was so far superior that it always felt like Dignitas was starting from one leg behind.
And it just felt like the experience of this team as a playoff regular, as a team that has won NA LCS splits in the past, shown through here, and CLG was able to demonstrate how you compete in best of fives, how you make adjustments in between games, and continue to just find the wins, adjusting as need be, and keeping the elements that work.
Dignitas may get a second shot, though. Both these teams are going to go into the gauntlet.
Right.
They will first have to take down FlyQuest to, again, challenge a rematch here with CLG.
I mean, if you're C9 and you're watching this, though, you have to be a little bit more nervous, I think, than you were before today, because CLG showed such good form in this that, you know, that's a team that could threaten C9, that could make that push towards Worlds, and we weren't saying that coming into this match today.
Right. If you're Cloud9 and you watch this match and you see a 5-game fiesta where it just looks like this complete craziness and nobody looks super clean, then you might be thinking, okay, we're pretty comfortable. We're the final boss. We're going to be okay. But a CLG that looks clean like this, a CLG that looks focused like this, is a CLG that you truly have to respect and prepare for appropriately.
And it's CLG kind of going back to their old ways here. In the last game with the 1-3-1 and split pushing, definitely kind of bodes well as far as where they came from and what versatility they can offer now with these strategies.
And that versatility, I mean, Azael, you brought it up first. Huhi doing so much work for this team, not only on Summoner's Rift, but in the banning phase, yeah. Vel'Koz and Aurelion Sol making it so these value picks made it through anyway, and it made it so these guys could just get what they needed and use it effectively.
I mean, it's extremely impressive that he is drawing all these bans and still completely dominating in this series. You know, even in that last series of plays in Game 3, first time he goes in, he forces out the ultimate from Altec, he forces out the heal. Second time he goes in, he kills Altec, he kills another person, barely gets out. Like, he is drawing so much pressure in these games and still performing.
Speaking of drawing pressure, Darshan there on the split push multiple games in a row, also doing a tremendous amount of work.
Well, to hear more about the players on stage, we're going to send it to Pastry Time, who's standing by with CLG's support and top laner.
Thank you very much. I'm here with Darshan and Aphromoo after a very successful sweep of Team Dignitas. I mean, I think coming into this match, I don't think anyone expected it to look that convincing from you. How are you feeling kind of coming into the match, Darshan?
I feel a lot better about our performance. I think we owe a lot of that to Aphromoo. I think he had really good communication and he just did a good job of like leading the game for us, so it was really easy to win.
And I think in general, both of you kind of playing like your old selves, you and Jax, but Aphro, I mean, consistently roaming, Stixxay still keeping up in that bot lane. What was the preparation like? Because it just feels like CLG are playing exactly how you've always played when you're playing at your best.
We're able to iron out a lot of the basic concepts in terms of macro and how to play the game, how we want to play the game. Had a like 4-hour meeting last night preparing for this match and stuff like that. But I thought everyone played really well, especially OmarGod. I thought he did very, very well. Yeah, and actually, kind of tell me about your new jungler, of course, still a rookie coming into this NA LCS, this split. I think so much changed for him, kind of moving into this. I mean, how's he feeling, I guess, after this? And what do you guys do as a team to kind of lead him, especially you two as the veterans? Kind of how did you prepare Omar for such a big stage game?
I think he just did a really good job of like calming himself down, kind of focusing. He's normally like a really like happy-go-lucky guy. Like he's usually like joking around and stuff like that. But before the game, he just got really focused and serious and kind of didn't let the nerves in the crowd affect him. And I think he played like it was just another game on stage at Santa Monica, so I think he did a great job. And then, of course, Darshan just talked about you, Aphro, and your leadership. Are you kind of there behind Omar as well, making sure to guide the new player? I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. So as far as leadership goes, Darshan mentioned that
you are responsible for a lot of that, but are you also there as the veteran, as the leader behind OmarGod, making sure he's feeling calm and in the right place? Because you two played very well together this series.
Yeah. I mean, jungle support always has to group up most of the time for every game, so it's important that we have good synergy. But I think Omar definitely stepped up a lot in terms of building synergy with everyone else on the team, ganking top, ganking mid, coming bottom as well. And this series, I was just able to move around the map a lot due to Omar having very good early game plans and where Shrimp was going, how to stop him. We got a couple early kills on him because of that, so Omar did very well.
All right, and of course, kind of moving away from this series, a successful series, which does mean you guys will be in the second round, or first round bye in the gauntlet, kind of awaiting the winner of FlyQuest and Dignitas. Now, FlyQuest, of course, barely eking into that gauntlet, and you just beat Dignitas. What do you think your chances are of beating whoever comes up from that first round of the gauntlet?
Well, we went to Worlds the last 2 years in a row, and we definitely want to make it 3 in a row, so I don't think it matters who we play against.
Aphro, CLG going to Worlds?
I mean, yeah, we'll see there.
All right, thank you very much. Congratulations again on the series win. But we are going to throw it back over when you guys are done. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Pastry Time. The 3-0 victory for CounterLogic Gaming. Not many expected that to happen. Called it.
No, we didn't.
But honestly, what a turnaround, right? Because you talk about their loss, getting knocked down a peg in the semifinals, and then what they've done in just a week's time with that rookie jungler that you just heard Darshan and Aphromoo praising here for his performance in this best-of-5 series. I mean, it's pretty remarkable that all of that happened in 7 days.
I think they actually did too good of a job, you know, getting rid of all the doubt, because now when they go into the gauntlet, people are going to think they're going to do well,
right,
and then they're going to do the opposite again.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to understate how important the first 3 minutes of each game was. The fact that they got first blood before minion waves met in games 2 and game 3 is huge for the implications of that game. I feel like it infused OmarGod with so much confidence, always gave him the upper hand because they killed Shrimp in both of those games as well in the early games. So I think that helped jumpstart a lot of their games.
What I
go for it.
I was going to say, I also think the game plan out of Dignitas was very different than what you saw out of the Immortals loss that CLG suffered. And I mean, they're different teams, so they can't necessarily execute the game plan 100% the same way. But you know, Immortals really targeted bans around the top and mid lane and then took counter picks up there and then just fought around bot side. It felt like CLG was still able to find favorable matchups for Darshan that drew pressure to the top side, as well as all these great early games that they planned for.
And to that point, right, we saw CLG and Dignitas both try many different looks in Champion Select. This third game resulting in the 1-3-1 composition out of CLG, bringing that Kassadin in the first pick phase, second rotation, first pick phase for Huhi. He had a fantastic performance alongside Darshan, really applying pressure to the map. And while we did have, you know, an even feeling for a large portion of that game, there was still that kind of inkling that Dignitas was getting strangled out because of the pressure.
Yeah, I always think CLG is at their best when they are 1-3-1-ing. And especially this year, Huhi and Darshan have been their 2 best players, I feel like, during the summer split. So if you can isolate them in 1v1 or 2v2 situations, they're generally going to do a lot better.
Yeah, and we had a perfect example of that coming at 26 minutes into the game. A 2-for-0 on the bot side. It's the 2 solo laners linking up against Ssumday and Keane.
And both top laners are trying to bait the other one in. Ssumday knows that he has Keane coming in, but Huhi gets there a little bit first. It results in another 2v1 situation where now Keane's getting soloed out. He is almost able to take down Darshan and just barely gets out. And this kind of feels like Ssumday suffered maybe from a little bit of tilt over the course of this game, getting over-aggressive at periods of time. Here, trying to finish off Huhi, just doesn't quite have the damage. The auto attack reset, not quite enough. And there you see some of those early game advantages really coming into effect, because if they were a little bit less goal down, if they didn't quite have that Warden's Mail completed on the Jax yet, these are plays that can easily go in your favor.
Right, that's the 1-3-1 comp kind of working the way it should by pulling pressure to the side lanes and then using these 2 power picks to kind of, you know, duo or solo people out. What you don't necessarily expect is to see a 1-team fight with the 1-3-1 composition, and that's what we got, our Acer Predator replay here in Game 3, 30 minutes in, 3-for-1 for CLG in the jungle.
Yeah, Kassadin's not just a split pusher, it's also a great flank pick in team fights. So 2 big things here. Darshan actually acts as a tank. The counter-strike there does a huge amount of work, and that gives time for Huhi to jump in the backside. He completely invalidates Keane for a lot of this fight, and also was pivotal in finishing off the Braum at the very beginning. And don't pay attention to Stixxay at the end there, jumping over the ground, but everything else worked out great for CLG.
Very much so.
Yeah, fight on 2 fronts. It was pretty easy for them to win there.
And Jax gets deceptively tanky. I mean, we talk about, yeah, he's maybe not the most useful frontlining tank, but with all of that health built through you know, the Frozen Mallet alongside the Ultimate, which helps with the resistances and the Counter-Strike, put him in a position to absorb an incredible amount of damage in that fight and ultimately pull the victory away for them. From there, we move to the Baron. It's typical CLG macro play, and they played it cleanly.
There was that one scary team fight where you felt like Dignitas with Ssumday might drag a corpse of his team across the finish line once, but wasn't quite able to do it.
Very much so. Now, a few players did step up in the TD Garden, but we'd like to recognize one player who made his presence known on the Rift today. So today, we're awarding Huhi Player of the Series. You talk about those solo laners stepping up, and this guy in particular in the mid lane.
Yeah, I feel like Huhi's finally starting to get some of that recognition he deserves because he's been playing lights out the whole year. This series was no different. Shockwaves were absolutely huge in Game 2. Kassadin was absolutely huge in Game 3, and that's on top of absorbing a number of bans in every single champion select. So Huhi absolutely destroyed today.
I don't know where it became CLG's best player, and a team full of veterans just speaks to his work ethic, his improvement. There's been a lot of news story and coverage recently about him as a person, and just couldn't go to anyone more deserving.
Right, very much so. Yeah, 3 different looks on 3 different champions with the bans being thrown at him, a part of the majority of CLG's big plays in one way or another, whether it's roaming down, whether the attention's coming mid. I do think we also have to give a nod to Aphromoo, right? We talked about the solo laners being fantastic. Aphromoo received a lot of criticism through the earlier stages of the playoffs for not matching the level of what we've known from him in the past, and here he showed up today.
Yeah, I mean, if we look back to the semifinals against Immortals, Huhi actually did more damage per minute than anyone on either team in that series, and I think the reason they lost is because the jungle and support position was so outclassed. So Aphromoo and OmarGod definitely stepped up today compared to the semifinals, and that was, you know, the big difference for them. Huhi's been performing the whole time. Those guys really stepped up.
Yeah, I think you could argue that Darshan was probably the second best player for CLG today, but the big thing was that the people who were underperforming in the previous series stepped up this time, did not become a liability over the course of the series, and actually made good plays.
And with this victory, with today's match in the books, we now know the path teams will need to take if they want to be that third team to represent North America at Worlds. It all starts with a match between FlyQuest and Team Dignitas. Then the subsequent winner must make the gauntlet run through CounterLogic Gaming and finally Cloud9. So there's a possibility we get a rematch of the best of 5 we just saw. And then I guess I'll turn to you, gentlemen, and say, all right, so then what does Dignitas need to do in the next in the next week, rather, looking past FlyQuest to rematch against CLG successfully?
I think just go safer in the early game. We were talking about after Game 2, like, all right, stop giving them advantages. And then what did they do in Game 3? They group up, go for another invade, and, you know, for the most part, CLG is ready and waiting for, and they get another kill on Shrimp. Stop going for these kind of shenanigans in the early game and just go for a smooth play, because in the mid-late game, you still have great Baron control.
Yeah, the level 1s are an often overlooked part of League, and I felt like Team Dignitas lost really big on those today. On top of that, they didn't play defense to the level that they had for most of the split. They had done a lot better job of holding 3K gold deficits for long periods of time, not making plays, and then scaling up, whereas today it felt like they were forcing a lot. So to add on to Mark's point of cleaning up their level 1s, they have to just stop playing so desperate.
Right. Well, I love that thought. The other thing I'd like to look at is champion pools. Again, when you talk about maybe just wanting to scale, where can we put Keane, right? Cassiopeia is that pick he's known for. It wasn't banned till second phase in Game 1, wasn't touched or looked at all in Game 3. So there were opportunities to put him on a comfort champion, which we have seen him carry on before.
The scary thing is, you know who he plays Orianna. He played it in Game 2. If you move on to blue side in Game 3 and you take it early, Huhi gets the counter pick, which, I mean, he's going to counter pick you no matter what. So maybe it is better to take you off Taliyah and put you on Cassio, because no matter what, you're going to end up in a disadvantageous situation. But
rocking a hard place.
Yeah, so it's hard to say exactly what to do with Keane, because he does feel like a little bit of an issue.
Now, let me ask you this, and this, again, looking way into the future. C9 against either of these teams, based on what we've seen out of these two teams here in the third place matchup, how do you feel C9 can stack up against the CLG that we saw today?
It's been so long since we've seen C9. I really wonder how they're going to be bouncing back from that quarterfinal defeat.
Yeah.
Before today, I would have said they would be huge favorites against CLG, but the more CLG can grow with OmarGod, the closer that series becomes. I think C9's still a favorite.
I would agree for the most part, but we are seeing a little bit of that CLG magic starting to come back. I think this is the team that I was expecting and hoping to see when we talked about it last week.
Right.
And if they can keep growing like this, there's no reason that they can't match up decently well versus C9. They just need to avoid some of the early game problems that might come from contracts, but Dignitas did a fine job about matching that up in their series.
Very much so. That, of course, all starts next week. We've still got to crown our North American Summer Champions here in Boston. It all comes down to the match tomorrow. 3 wins separates TSM or Immortals from being crowned Kings of NA here in Boston. Gentlemen, let's preview this match just briefly. What are your thoughts going into it? I'm excited.
I'm hyped.
Oh boy.
This is so close across so many different roles. You look at the skill matchups in the bottom lane, you could put Doublelift over Cody, but Ole over Bifrost. You can do this across every lane, and it's pretty much going to be a wash with who has the advantage in each lane. So I hope it's one of the great series we get to see in the finals.
It's also really reminiscent of some of the other finals that we have seen. Immortals does have a lot of shades of CLG in their team, not just because, oh, it's Pobelter and Smithy, but a playmaking support, a top laner who generally does best on an island. These kinds of things are all elements that we've been accustomed to seeing in the CLG versus TSM rivalries. Just takes a little bit different face with Immortals being a completely different organization.
On the topic leading into the championship match, I was able to catch up with the Immortals support Ole and get his thoughts on playing for the title. Take a look.
Hey guys.